Uh.
Welcome to Amaka Intellectual Factory, where I host podcasts and many other interesting stuff. So, I wrote an article giving my thoughts on the very obvious non-participation of Black Americans in the anti-Trump protests that took place on April 5th, 2025. And before I could even post it up or make a video of it, the Democrats had another protest against President Trump. Well, the information in this article is just as applicable to subsequent protests against Trump. Clearly, protesting is part of their opposition strategy against President Trump. Anyway, here goes my article. I would be publishing the reading version of it on my website, www.amakaintellectualfactory.com. My thoughts on blacks in America not participating in the April 5th, 2025 anti-Trump protests. An anti-Trump protest was planned for April 5th, 2025. The theme of the protest was hands off. The purpose of the protest was to condemn virtually every decision the Trump administration has made since President Trump was sworn into office as the 47th President of the United States of America. So here are some of the things the protesters were protesting. On immigration, which seems to be one of the biggest concerns of those opposed to the Trump administration's stance. President Trump unequivocally articulated that he was going after those people who crossed the border illegally with criminal records. And he was going to build a wall to stop the caravan of illegal immigration pouring into the United States of America. Then there was the USAID financial scandal on a scale that has no competition, where trillions of US tax dollars were, on paper, spent on so many things that could not be accounted for. Trump stopping this unconstrained drainage of the US Treasury caused global reverberations. These protesters did not like the idea of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, headed by Elon Musk. Their continuous violence and vandalism of Tesla dealerships and Tesla privately owned vehicles clearly showed their disapproval of Elon Musk's ingenious and commendable job at uncovering embezzlement and wasteful spending of US tax dollars. They also disapproved of President Trump ending diversity, equity, and inclusions programs. That's DEI programs. These are just some of the major bones of contention they have with the Trump administration. So now here's my analysis. With regards to blacks in America, every single one of these decisions by the Trump administration is beneficial to Black America. It is obvious to me, and you would think that it would be obvious to everyone else. Trump's administration has performed excellently in such a short period of time that his approval ratings go beyond the shores of the United States of America. Globally, he is celebrated as a beacon of hope, and that also is obvious to me. For me to state that I am taken aback by the type of opposition President Trump is getting in the United States is an understatement. But that aside, I am really impressed by the almost 100% non-participation of blacks in America in those protests. It demonstrated that good-intentioned blacks in America were still capable of coming together and making decisions that benefited Black America. However, I must address one major reason a lot of Black people gave for not participating in the anti-Trump protests that took place on April 5th, 2025. A lot of Black people took to social media stating that President Trump was looking for an excuse to impose martial law. This would restrict freedom of movement and put soldiers on the streets. While it is true that law and order could break down, causing a lot of blacks to get injured, arrested, or even killed in the protest, it is important to let it be known that there is no truth to this martial law rumor whatsoever. Those peddling this rumor seem to forget 2020, the ending of President Trump's first term, when the COVID-19 pandemic brought the whole world, including the United States, to a grinding halt with shutdowns. It was one of the scariest periods in modern history. I still vividly remember how President Trump was doing everything he could to end COVID-19 shutdowns, at least in America. That alone is enough evidence that President Trump does not want to evoke martial law. Something tells me that a lot of the Black people that were spreading this rumor did so to convince the simpletons among Black people to not participate in the anti-Trump protests. I am convinced they themselves did not believe this rumor they were spreading. Anyway, it worked, and it stopped blacks in America from participating in that protest. President Trump said in his inauguration that he wanted to be remembered as a man of peace, and he most definitely would. The Trump administration was able to stop the breakdown of law and order from earlier protests. His domestic opposition is so subversive, it is scary. Now, my concluding thoughts. The Trump administration has presented an opportunity for Black America to resuscitate itself. I find Black America's suffering so disheartening. Our president is a deal maker in chief. The next step is for Black America to come together and ask themselves what they really need and present their proposals to President Trump. It is no longer wise to bank on the black officials in the US government to advocate for the well-being of Black America. A group of well-meaning Black Americans can come together with great ideas that would benefit Black America and table it to the president. I do not think that anything that would benefit Black America would be so isolated that other Americans cannot benefit from it. My point is that now that we have a president that has a listening ear, loves and genuinely cares for America, is a perfect time for Black America, especially Black American women or Black women in America, to make a deal that would have generational benefits for Black America. The end of my article. As always, you are more than welcome to share your thoughts in the comment section. Well, that's all I have to say for now. Until next time, take care of your lovely selves. And remember, life is beautiful and worth living.